This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, held a working session in Warsaw with his Polish counterpart as part of the official visit he's paying to Poland. Foreign Minister also seized the opportunity to hail the firm and honourable position of the Republic of Poland towards the Palestinian cause, notably its recognition of the State of Palestine. And Spain has filed lawsuit with the International Court of Justice to join South Africa in its lawsuit against the Israeli occupation over genocide in the Gaza Strip. And UN General Assembly President Denis Francis has said in condemnation of the ongoing Israeli aggression in Gaza that enough is enough, insisting on the vital urgency of a ceasefire. And those were the major developments. Now, the Full News edition. Good afternoon. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, held a working session on Friday in Warsaw with his Polish counterpart, Radosław Sikorski, as part of the official visit he's paying to the Republic of Poland, entrusted by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. The agenda of this session focused, according to the press release, on ways and means of giving new dynamic to the historic relations between Algeria and Poland, particularly in the context of the current economic developments that our country is experiencing and which opens the doors wide to opportunities for cooperation and partnership.
I have informed my counterpart, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, about the results achieved in Algeria in the economic field, thanks to the new vision and reform undertaken by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. I believe that the current economic developments witnessed by our country, and which will open the doors wide to cooperation and partnership opportunities between our two countries, knowing that the fields of national development are in line with the priorities of our partnership and cooperation between Algeria and Poland, and I seize this opportunity to hail the firm and honourable position of the Republic of Poland towards the Palestinian cause, notably its recognition of the State of Palestine and its recent vote at the UN General Assembly in favour of a draft resolution relating to the full membership of the State of Palestine in the UN.
In this respect, the two ministers agreed to schedule the first session of the Algerian-Polish Intergovernmental Commission for Economic Cooperation, consolidate the legal framework for bilateral cooperation, and install a joint working team which will be entrusted with the mission of establishing cooperation and partnership formulas in the field of energy, particularly renewable energy sources. The two ministers also reviewed the development in the political and security situation in the immediate neighborhood of the two countries, as well as in the occupied Palestinian territories, in addition to the new developments relating to the partnership between Algeria and the European Union. The two ministers also highlighted the attachment of the two countries to the principles and objectives of the United Nations and the vital role assigned to the UN system in the face of growing challenges and crises which are exacerbating and which are necessary both at regional and international levels. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, also underlined from Warsaw the concern of the Republic authorities to involve members of the national community settled abroad in the national development efforts, particularly in the context of significant achievements recorded on all levels thanks to the profound reforms decided by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. During his meeting with members of the national community established in Poland, Mr. Attaf indicated that the President of the Republic pays great interest in the situation of Algerians established abroad, an interest accompanied by a global consumption of the role and place of our community in the process of national renewal undertaken by the President with the aim of establishing the pillars of a new Algeria which never ceases to defend its interests and which does not procrastinate when it comes to defending those of its children both in Algeria and abroad.
The President of the Republic attaches a great deal of importance to the conditions of the national community settled abroad, an importance accompanied by a global vision on the role and position of our community in the process of national renewal adopted by the President of the Republic with the aim of laying the foundations of a new Algeria capable of defending its interests and does not fail to defend the interests of its children, both inside and outside Algeria.
After transmitting the greetings of the President of the Republic to the members of the community, the minister affirmed that this vision has been reflected on the ground and is now becoming a tangible reality through a series of measures and policies which have made it possible to take care of concerns that have tormented members of our national community for many decades. You still listen to Radio Algeria International, and still with national news. The Counterterrorism Committee of the Security Council, chaired by Ambassador Ammar Benjama, has held a plenary meeting at the UN headquarters, during which the permanent representative of Algeria received Mr. Albert Khan Dapah, Minister of National Security of Ghana, who gave a detailed presentation on the measures taken by his country to combat terrorism. Mr. Khan Dapah presented during this meeting the progress made by Ghana in the implementation of the recommendations made following the visit of the committee in 2019. The Ghanaian minister highlighted that 87% of the 63 recommendations have been implemented, thus considerably strengthening Ghana's capacity to prevent and combat terrorism. Ambassador Benjama commended the efforts made by Ghana and led a constructive question and answer session between members of the committee and Minister Khan Dapah. The meeting allowed for fruitful exchange on the challenges and opportunities in the fight against terrorism in Africa or in Western Africa. The Director General of the National Security, Ali Badawi, accompanied by a delegation from the Ministry of the Interior, as well as a representative of the Gendarmerie Command National Security, took part Wednesday and Thursday in the 4th UN Conference of Heads of Police Bodies in New York. Mohammed Khatil has the details.
During the opening session of the conference, the director of DGSN delivered a speech through which he expressed Algeria's consideration for the efforts and sacrifices of the members of the UN peacekeeping mission, hailing Algeria's efforts in the development and modernization of its national security institutions with a view to adapting its capacity to face new and emerging threats, in particular cyber threats. In this regard, Mr. Badawi affirmed that Algeria, in its capacity as the host of the headquarters of the African Union Mechanism for Police Cooperation of the African Union, AFRIPOL, supports the idea of assigning a greater role for the AU in terms of consolidating cooperation between African police institutions, adding that Algeria is fully prepared to strengthen bilateral cooperation with different partners with a view to sharing its extensive experience in combating all types of threats. At the end of his speech, the DGSN Director General considered that Algeria, in its capacity as a reliable security partner with broad expertise in the fight against crime in all its forms, remains committed to contributing to regional efforts and international organizations aimed at strengthening innovative and effective partnerships with a view to combating the schemes of extremist criminal groups. On the sidelines of this conference, in the presence of Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama, the Director General of the National Security, had bilateral meetings with the UN Under Secretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix. The talks focused on ways to strengthen partnership and police cooperation through training and the transfer of expertise and technologies to deal with different forms of transnational crime. In the same context, the Director General of the National Security and the Deputy Secretary General for Safety and Security of the UN, Gilles Michaud, held talks on the opportunities to intensify cooperation between Algeria and the United Nations in matters of security of UN headquarters, expressing the availability of the Algerian police to support the efforts of the UN body in the field of training of UN police officers.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, and Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations office in Geneva, Rachid Beladhan, has reiterated Algeria's firm commitment to the protection and promotion of human rights at all levels during the interactive dialogue with the UN Special Rapporteur on the rights of peaceful assembly and association. Beladhan expressed on behalf of the Algerian delegation his gratitude to the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the rights of peaceful assembly and association, Mr. Clément Voulet, yesterday for his visit to Algeria and for a detailed report he presented following his mission. Bilal Khan particularly underlined Algeria's firm commitment to opening dialogue and cooperation with United Nations mechanisms, as evidenced by Mr. Voulet's fruitful discussions during his visit to the country. Bilal Khan also highlighted the crucial importance of contributions from civil society and stakeholders based in Algeria through calls for contributions regarding country visits by United Nations mandate holders. Still with the same piece of information, this close cooperation between the government and civil society in Algeria, he went on to say, is manifested by initiatives such as the creation of the National Observatory of Civil Society, which reflect our commitment to open and inclusive dialogue, noting that this collaboration strengthens the approach towards participatory and transparent governance. Regarding freedom of association and civil society, Mr. Bilal Khan stressed that it's fully exercised in accordance with the law and international standards. And regarding religious associations, the permanent representative of Algeria to the United Nations office in Geneva indicated that freedom of religion is guaranteed by the Constitution and is exercised in accordance with law. 2:41 minutes Algeria's time. You still listen to Radio Algeria International, and Spain has filed lawsuit with the International Court of Justice (ICJ) to join South Africa in its lawsuit against the Israeli occupation over genocide in the Gaza Strip. And the details with Mohammed Khatel.
The ICJ said in a statement that Spain, invoking Article 63 of the Statute of the Court, filed in the Registry of the Court a declaration for intervention in the case concerning application of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in the Gaza Strip. The statement added that Spain relies on its status as a party to the Genocide Convention and exercises its right to intervene in the proceedings under Article 63, paragraph 2 of the document. On December 29, 2023, South Africa filed a lawsuit with the ICJ against the Israeli occupation over the ongoing genocide in the Gaza Strip. On January 26, the ICJ ruled provisional measures ordering the Israeli occupation to take urgent steps to prevent acts of genocide and ensure the flow of humanitarian aid to the enclave. In early March, the African nation went back to the ICJ to call for additional provisional measures against the Israeli occupation that would address widespread starvation among Palestinians in the besieged Gaza Strip. On May 10, South Africa addressed the ICJ with an immediate request to apply additional measures against the Israeli occupation. On May 16 and 17, the court held hearing on the matter. And on May 24, the court ordered the Israeli occupation to stop the genocide in Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah and take measures to ensure access of missions to investigate the accusations of genocide. Earlier this month, Spain announced its intention to join the case. With Spain, 13 countries have formally accused the Israeli occupation of genocide.
And still, the Palestinian thorny issue, Israeli occupation forces committed 3 main massacres against families in the Gaza Strip over the last 24 hours, resulting in the documented killing of at least 40 Palestinians and the injury of 224 others. Local health authorities confirmed that the Palestinian death toll from the Israeli onslaught since October 7th has risen to 37,834 reported fatalities, with an additional 86,858 individuals sustaining injuries. The majority of the victims are women and children. Meanwhile, ambulance and rescue teams are still unable to reach many casualties and dead bodies trapped under the rubble or scattered on roads across the war-torn enclave, as Israeli occupation forces continue to obstruct the movement of ambulance and civil defense crews. Germany has strongly condemned the Israeli occupation's recent decision to legalize 5 settlement outposts in the occupied West Bank, calling it a move that undermines efforts towards a two-state solution and violates international law. German Foreign Ministry spokesman Sebastian Fischer, speaking at a press conference in Berlin yesterday evening, criticized the Israeli policy of expanding settlements in Palestinian territories as a serious breach of international law. He emphasized that such actions actions endanger peace and security for all peoples in the region. Fischer urged the Israeli government to immediately reverse its decisions, highlighting Germany's clear condemnation of what it termed as a so-called legitimization of Israeli settlement hotspots and the approval of new housing units in the West Bank. Germany, alongside several other European countries, has consistently opposed Israeli settlement in the West Bank, viewing them as a major obstacle to resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through peaceful negotiations. And UN General Assembly President Denis Francis has said in condemnation of ongoing Israeli aggression and killings in Gaza that enough is enough. He said too many civilians have already lost their lives in Gaza, too many women, too many children in what was without a doubt an avoidable situation. It's time to bring this to a halt, he said. He insisted that the ceasefire is important, among other things, because hopefully it will in some way engender a political process that could and should result in the adoption of a two-state solution. The UN official said this cycle of bloodletting, mayhem, destruction is not sustainable. When asked about the perceived failure of the UN to halt the conflict in Gaza, Francis said that there has been a failure, but added that the failure has not been that of the UN or the General Assembly. He added that the failure does not belong to the UN, as frustration as it has been for the UN, because the UN's brand is always peace, as he put it. And the Palestinian NGOs network rehabilitation sector has warned about the dire consequences of the ongoing and escalating Israeli aggression on Gaza. Again, details with Mohammed Khatel.
According to a statement released today, hundreds of persons with disabilities have been killed and thousands more injured as a result of the Israeli onslaught. The crisis has forced tens of thousands of disabled individuals to flee, exposing them to harsh displacement conditions and severe psychological trauma, the group revealed. The statement emphasized that Israeli actions, including the destruction of infrastructure, main roads, and rehabilitation centers, have severely restricted the movement and access to services for persons with disabilities. This has significantly diminished their ability to mobilize, evacuate safely, and has resulted in the loss of crucial assistive devices abandoned in the face of bombardment. Furthermore, the lives of persons with disabilities are endangered due to the acute shortages of water, food, energy, medications, and medical and rehabilitation services. Displaced individuals with disabilities face immense difficulties in overcrowded and ill-equipped shelters lacking basic amenities, exacerbating their struggle to access humanitarian aid, sanitation facilities, and other essential needs. The group underscored that the failure to accommodate disabled-friendly shelters, coupled with overcrowding, poses an additional challenge in accessing already scarce services. Persons with disabilities are particularly vulnerable to malnutrition and chronic illnesses, significantly increasing their risk of mortality.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. The Joe Biden administration has announced his intention to maintain the protection of a huge area in Alaska that the Donald Trump administration tried to withdraw in order to allow its mining, gas, and oil exploitation. The Democratic government has at the same time made a definitive decision blocking the construction of a road in Alaska named Highway Ambler, which would have led to areas rich in minerals, especially copper. Joe Biden said on X that these natural resources demand protection. The area whose protection should be maintained covers in total some 11 million hectares in western Alaska in particular. Government agencies' analysis concluded that the revocation of protection would likely harm hunting and fishing necessary for the subsistence of local populations and would have long-term negative consequences on wildlife and vegetation. You still listen to Radio Algeria International, 14 hours, 48 minutes, Algiers time, and time now for the headlines. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, held a working session on Friday in Warsaw with his Polish counterpart as part of the official visit he is paying to the Republic of Poland. The Algerian Foreign Minister seized this opportunity to hail the firm and honourable position of the Republic of Poland toward the Palestinian cause, notably its recognition of the State of Palestine and its recent vote at the UN General Assembly. Spain has filed a lawsuit with the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to join South Africa in its lawsuit against the Israeli occupation over alleged genocide in the Gaza Strip. And UN General Assembly President Denis Francis has said in condemnation of ongoing Israeli aggression in Gaza that enough is enough, insisting on the vital urgency of a ceasefire. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, and that's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to a program devoted to Algerian national community abroad, compiled and presented by Majid Mila.